Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Brains Podcast with me, your host, Michal. Today is a super special one. Today, I'm joined by Julie Farnsworth. We'll be diving into grief, healing, and how people can move through loss with more support, compassion, and understanding. Julie, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you so much. I am great. I am caffeinated. I'm ready. Happy to be here.
Good. So happy to have you. I would love to start at the heart of your work today. How was One Free Soul Grief Journey born? I mean, what was happening in your life at that time that made you feel this body of work needs to exist?
Yeah. So that's why I'm here today. I feel like my whole life has kind of been leading me to this moment, this where I have been going and where I'm continuing to go. But I think because I've had so many pieces of this life journey come together that the past 30 years working with people who have needed support, needed help, in various ways. I've had different roles in my work as a social worker. So that obviously has been a huge piece of this work that I've done. It's been a journey just with those 30 years and seeing people who really were at their lowest points, who had been through unimaginable, traumatic, hardships and loss and tragedy, and seeing them come back from all of this and kind of being like this keeper of everybody's stories and kind of like, okay, I know I'm a part of this and I know I'm supporting, I'm guiding, I'm helping, but there's also something else going on here. So I think that was always like in the back of my head. And going back in time, when I was just a young girl, I just kind of felt called to do this work to help people. So I started volunteering at a nursing home. That was at the age of 12. So fast forward all these years, One Free Soul Grief Journey has kind of been all of this combined. It's been me just knowing that I'm called to this work. I've been in this work. I know what people are going through. I, myself personally, have been on a grief journey, and I know what it feels like, and I know what it's like to come out on the other side of it. So all of that being said, the One Free Soul part of it is in honor of my sister, Erica, who passed away at the age of 40 from cancer. She was nicknamed One Free Soul by my grandmother, who is also part of my story that I know we'll talk about a little later, was a social worker as well, had nicknamed Erica One Free Soul because she just kind of marched to the beat of her own drum. And she had a jewelry business on Etsy called One Free Soul. And when I was trying to come up with a name for my business, when I realized, okay, I'm going to do this on my own, I had gotten certification as a grief counselor, a grief coach, and couldn't come up with a name, and was taking a walk and saw this red leaf, picked it up, and it just popped in my head. One Free Soul Grief Journey. So long-winded answer to how this was born. And I do feel like it was a birth. So now it's kind of taken a life of its own.
It's
which
beautiful.
Is so cool.
It's so beautiful. And like you just said, this whole thing feels so deeply personal, and I think that's why people connect, and I think that's why people probably really enjoy working with you. Looking back, how would you describe your own journey from grief and loss to the woman and the person you are sitting here with us today?
Yeah. I mean, so deeply personal. like I said, and you said, just with my own grief and loss, and everything that I have been through, all of the pieces are so deeply personal. But of course, my own struggles, my own journey with grief and loss, and how I got through it and came out the other side to be where I am now, is just something that I can really not only say I can understand and relate, I honestly, absolutely, lived experience-wise, know what it's like to be at your lowest point, to be going into the hospital because I was so just needing help, needing support, knew I needed to have somebody do the same thing for me that I had been doing for other people, and thinking, okay, well, I'm kind of just surviving now, like just wasn't really feeling any joy in life, just stuck. And so I know what I did for me. And I know we'll get to that, later questions, but I know what worked for me. And so I'm so passionate about it because I know it can help other people too. And you don't have to feel like this, like you're stuck in this and you're never going to get better and life is always just going to be a struggle. So I think that's just a huge part of my message.
100%. And grief can really change people in really profound ways. It can be, that's a heavy weight to carry around, right?
Yeah.
And in your case, what were some moments or shifts or some realizations that helped you begin to move from survival mode towards this healing?
Yeah. Well, I think, like I said, I kind of was at a point where I just was going through the motions in life, just doing what I needed to do. I needed to work. I needed to take care of my dogs. I needed to pay my bills. I needed to do all the life stuff that, you just kind of can get stuck in those moments of you just doing what you have to do and not really finding joy in anything, just kind of going through the motions. I just I wasn't able to even think outside of those just basic things. So I think the shift for me was, doing that for months. I got to a point where something kind of like clicked in my head and I was like, I don't want to keep living like this. This isn't what I pictured for my life. This is not what I would want for anybody that I have worked with. This isn't what I would want for anybody that I love and care about. So what am I going to do about it? And I think that was the shift, was like that little, like, I think my brain was just stuck in that autopilot, like, it had been in that very low place, and was just kind of starting to like think a little bit like, okay, there's a future here. What are we going to do to make this better? So that's when I decided, okay, we're going to do some things that I have told other people to do, and I'm going to treat myself like one of my clients. So what would I tell somebody that I was working with? And it was little things like, I started to keep a journal, and I did gratitude every day. I started to just write down 3 things that I was grateful for throughout the day. I started to listen to positive affirmations every night before falling asleep. I started to do some more physical activity. I joined a pickleball group. I joined a ballet class. And I was making myself do these things. It wasn't like, oh, I can't wait to go and do pickleball. But that was the shift, was just like incorporating all these things that I was not doing. I was just in survival mode. So
I love that you said that you started treating yourself like with a lot of empathy and kindness and how you would treat your own patients. I think that's really beautiful. It really is. And I think one of the most interesting dimensions of your work is that connection between the real life experiences and the professional experiences combined together. How has your own personal journey through grief and loss shaped the way you now support your clients and people around you?
Yeah. I mean, it was a huge thing for me to personally be doing this work. Even just knowing the time frame for it and the timeline that it took me almost a year to actually feel better and to feel actually better than I ever had before, like a new person. So I think this is such a big piece of this for me now, working with other people, is that I know the work that I did, and I'm not just telling you, do this, this, and this, and you're going to be fine. It's, okay, try this. You have to be intentional. You have to do these things every day. You have to do them at least 21 days is the magic number to make anything like a habit, to make things actually stick. So, you can't just say, oh, well, I did this journaling and I'm not any better. Well, you need to keep doing it. So I think, I am kind of guiding the person that I'm working with and saying, yes, I know you still feel like, things aren't changing and it's okay. I understand that, because we want to be like, we want to feel better. We want to have something happen right away. But it's really just a matter of honoring your feelings and kind of talking to yourself in a way that you're telling yourself, okay, I don't want to feel this way. I'm doing the work and I'm going to be okay. So a lot of this is like our own little voice in our head and our self-talk. So that is one thing for sure that is so important in my work with other people, is just think about what you're saying to yourself and work on that voice and that, inner critic, and make it talk to you in a loving, positive way, in a caring, supportive way, because you're the only one that can do that for yourself. Nobody else can do that. So the positive little voice or the negative to the positive is a huge piece of this too.
I think that's great advice. Like, just talk to yourself kindly with compassion and kindness. And it's a great tip. I would love to bring the science into this as well, because neuroplasticity is such a huge, important part of this conversation. Now, that might be a very unfamiliar term for people. People might be familiar with it already. Can you explain what neuroplasticity is and why it's become so meaningful in both your personal work and your professional work?
Yeah. Well, and everything that I've kind of alluded to so far is related to this. So when I was doing my social work, and actually when I was in community mental health, and I had clients that I was working with one-on-one every day in, day out, I was seeing things that I was thinking, like, I know they're coming to me. I know we're talking. Some people were starting to make progress and other people were not, and were kind of just stagnant. So I began to think about it a little differently. And I began to think like, okay, so the people that I'm seeing that are making progress are the ones who are actually doing a little bit more like deeper work besides just coming to me and talking. So I started to think about like, what is this deeper work? So how does this all kind of combine with this self-talk, these ideas that we have about ourselves, the things that we've gone through life believing. And so that kind of led me to this neuroscience piece. And I got a certification as a neurochange practitioner. And I learned that this term neuroplasticity basically just means your brain is plastic. So that's exciting because your brain can actually heal itself. So our brains and bodies were designed to endure hard things, but our brains are also meant to heal ourselves, and that connection is powerful. So how do they heal themselves? Well, that's the plastic piece. So when you're, talking in these it sound really simple, like talk to yourself kindly. Think of ways that you would want to kind of rethink things, reframe things. Like if you have carried around the belief about yourself since you were a little girl or a little boy, oh, I'm just clumsy, or I forget things, or I make mistakes, and you kind of just have that in your head, you can actually rewire that. So if you give your brain new information, new positive input, and you think of things differently, like, no, I'm really not clumsy, but maybe I can say it differently, like, I can be a little bit more self-aware, and or I always make mistakes. Well, how did that teach me what I want to learn? It's just like a reframe of things. And you tell yourself these things, and your brain actually starts to make new connections. So the positive affirmations, listening to those every night, and I still do it. I listened to one last night about, just where I see myself in the world and in the future. And your brain really does start to, it's like if you can envision these little channels. So my channel was over here, and now I rewired it to be over here and thinking something totally different. It's amazing. It has this capability to heal itself, but you have to do the work. It's not going to just do it automatically.
Right. That's an important key part, right? You have to do the work, and it's difficult. It doesn't happen overnight, but you would say stick to it, trust the process, and continue to be kind to yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. When someone is carrying grief, I guess it can often feel like they will never think or feel or live differently again. How does this idea of neuroplasticity offer hope in that space? And what does this suggest about the mind's ability to rewire and our ability to heal and adapt?
Yeah. Well, I think knowing this, it really helps people to feel a little bit of a sense of control over something that feels so out of control. So we did not choose what has happened to us. We did not choose to lose somebody important in our lives. We did not choose to have traumatic things happen to us. And we can take a moment and grieve that, and we can think of it in a way that we honor those feelings, but we can take some of that control back and that power over ourselves to say that we don't deserve to be stuck in that just because these things have happened and they were really hard and really sad. We can choose to take some of that control back and do these things that can help us live better lives, because we know, especially if we're talking about the loss of somebody, life is short, life is fleeting. We don't want to live a life that is absent of joy or just feeling stuck like you're going through the motions. That is not a way that anybody wants to live. So I think it just gives you that sense of control back over your life, knowing that you can actually help yourself feel better and live a better life, however that might look. And that, that's different for everybody, but just that sense of feeling like you can control some of these things and you have that power and that ability. And everybody does.
So you've spent 30 years as a social worker, and I guess that gives you a very rich perspective on people and I guess on pain and people's resilience. Mm-hmm. What would you say your work has taught you about human nature and how our ability is to move through these hard times?
Yeah. I mean, when I think about all of the people that I have had the honor of working with, it's humbling because I'm the keeper of everybody's stories, and people have literally trusted me with their lives to help them. And I have just been amazed at things that people have been through and the way that people can change their stories and their lives, and human resiliency, and just being in awe and amazed at the human spirit and what people are capable of. And I think I've always kind of known that, and it's really just some of the roles that I've had just as a foster care caseworker. I can remember I was 23, my first job out of college, and just, seeing these tragic stories of families that were, not able to keep their children, and children that had to go into the foster care system, and just thinking, wow, I can't even imagine something so hard. But then seeing people with support and, somebody to believe in them for the first time maybe ever, that they never had that before, and how that in and of itself could just make such a difference for people. So, yeah, it really has been, for me, as much about learning from people as it has been about me teaching them. Like, it's been very reciprocal from just everybody that I've had the honor to work with to where I am now after 30 years, which I can't even believe that it's been that long. But, I'm very honored to have been able to do this work. And I've had, this amazing role model, my grandmother. I know we're going to talk about her, but she, kind of just really planted these seeds in my head from the time I was a little girl to, just being able to be able to know the impact that this work has had. It really is amazing to be part of. So, yeah, I'm just so passionate about this next
100%.
phase in it, just to kind of be concentrating on the grief and loss part, because I've been in various roles for people with different work. But this, I know, is my niche right now is this. So.
Yeah, and I can imagine you mentioned over these past 30 years, the 3 decades, you've likely witnessed a lot of really extreme, how would I say, struggle, but both you've also seen a lot of extraordinary strength in a lot of people that you've worked with and a lot of people you surround yourself with. What are some of the biggest lessons your social work career has taught you about healing, taught you about support, and probably what humans really need in these difficult situations?
Yeah. Well, I think a big piece of this is having somebody to support, help guide you, help try to understand you. So I think all humans need that support. They need, even if it's just one person, to connect to know that this person is not judging them. This person is genuinely interested and cares about them. And just having that one person can really change somebody else's life, especially if we're talking about people that have never really had that before. And I've seen this with a lot of my clients that, they've just come from such traumatic backgrounds. And, maybe they had like a teacher or somebody along the way that helped them. So never underestimate the importance of just being a positive person for somebody else. But I think that's a key point and why I'm so driven, I think, to get this message out and to be in the role that I am, because I want to be able to reach and help and support as many people as I can, because I know that is just so hugely important to just have that person that can support you, to understand you, to know that you can confide in that person. You can have them, understand what you've been through, or at least listen and empathize. So I think that's a huge piece of being a social worker and kind of what this this whole journey has been about, really.
Right. I totally agree. What I really love about your story and what feels so striking is that you had this calling or this feeling very young in life, age 12. Can you take us back to that moment when you realized that this was your calling, this was who you are, this is what you were meant to do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and at the time I had no idea, but looking back on it now, I don't know. I just felt like something in me needed to help other people. And I can't really explain why, other than maybe my grandmother having the influence on me as a social worker. I can remember being 12, and there was an opportunity. It was through school, and there was a connection through the American Red Cross to volunteer. And I was like, oh my gosh, this would be amazing. And I wanted to volunteer in a nursing home. And I'm sure that probably was from my grandmother, because she had taken me with her to, she had been retired at that point, because when she did social work, she also worked for a foster care and adoption agency, which I didn't even realize until later in life that I literally followed in her footsteps. But she had been going to a nursing home to visit. She called them her ladies. And I tagged along with her a bunch of times on these visits. And I can remember just sitting and watching her talk to them, and just feeling like this is really, I don't know exactly how to put it into words, but I just feel really good about it. And I can see the joy that she is bringing to these ladies. And so I became this little candy striper. I had a little uniform and my Red Cross pin that I still have today. And I was off to volunteer at the nursing home, and I loved it. It was amazing. I would wheel the residents to different places in the nursing home, and they would talk to me lovingly. And it just was such a great feeling. And I did that all the way through my senior year of high school. So I don't think I realized at the time that this was a calling. I just knew, in college I wanted to study psychology and I wanted to do something to kind of channel this. I did an internship in college that was at a women's shelter with children there. And I think, pieces were starting to connect. But yeah, I think, it's very recent that I realized that this truly is a calling for me.
Right. Now that we're talking back and doing all this reflective conversation, it feels like there really is this clear red thread from the Red Cross to where you are right now. But I'm curious to know, how has that sense of purpose evolved over the years from going with your grandmother to today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think it's been so personal for me. And I think that has just made my purpose feel like this is what I'm meant to do. Again, I can't really necessarily put it into words, but I just know this is what I'm here to do. And I think everything that I've been through and everything that I have done in my life has all kind of, like you said, that thread to kind of connect me and have me be in different places so that I have been able to just kind of go through life and do this work and know now, yeah, this is bigger than me. This is bigger than my career. This is bigger than, volunteering. But it's all of it too. It's my story. It's my passion. It's my purpose. It's my calling. It's such a big part of who I am, a big part of my identity. And it just feels like I'm so clear about it now. There's no question in my mind that this is what I'm meant to do. This is why I'm here.
Right. I love this connection between you and your granny because I'm the same. I love my granny so much. I still do, they can be so influential and they can be such good role models and examples. So I feel that connection with you in that sense.
Yeah.
But I wanted to dive into this important woman in your life. What kind of legacy did she pass on to you and how you now are as a person and how you are with your own clients?
Yeah. Well, I'm lucky. I'm blessed to have strong women that have been good role models. My mom and both of my grandparents, grandmothers. I still am lucky enough to have one grandmother who is living. She will be 102 in June. So she's also a huge role model for me. An amazing woman, so strong. I have had a very special relationship with her, but my grandmother Ruth, who was way beyond her time, at a time when women weren't even going to college. She got her master's degree. She was a director of an adoption and foster care agency. I can remember as a child her just doing her thing. She was married to, my grandfather was a physics professor, and so he was very like logical and kind of like, not very wordy. He would just kind of say like the bare minimum. But when he said something, you would listen, but she would do all the talking. And I could see her, everywhere we went, she would talk to people, she would make friends, and then just like I said, she would invite me to go with her to see her ladies. The the one lady that I can remember that we saw her often, and I really liked her. Her name was June. And her favorite food, and this is what was her highlight, which when I think about it now is like, oh my gosh, such a simple thing. But my grandmother would find out what their favorite foods were. My grandmother was Southern, so Southern influences like eating, cooking for other people is like a love language. So June's favorite food was a tuna fish sandwich. This woman, like, her face would just light up when we would bring it to her. And, I'll never forget that. And just some of those lessons that she wasn't ever, like, telling me, this is how you should do this, or this is how you should be. It was by example. It was really just... And I didn't appreciate it or realize it at the time, but just her amazing ability to relate to other people and provide these little things that brought them such huge joy. And it's really, like, she was an amazing woman.
Sounds like it. I love that. I love what you said. She never explicitly said, do this, do that. You just learned by watching and by her doing, by example. It's beautiful. But when you bring all of these things together, like grief, healing, neuroplasticity, social work, and this long life feeling or calling to serve, what is the bigger message or impact that you hope One Free Soul Grief Journey leaves with people who encounter it?
Yeah, I love this question. So, my hope, my purpose, my mission right now with One Free Soul Grief Journey is to really reach as many people as I possibly can with this message of resiliency and hope and how you can help yourself, how you can take back some of this control that you might not have known about before. And I really feel like the underlying theme for me is that I am here to help people live better lives. So if I can even just do that by somebody listening to this message and taking away some pieces of things that they didn't know about before or some new knowledge on neuroplasticity, I will feel really good about that work. One Free Soul Grief Journey, I designed to have as one-on-one work with people initially. So 12-week healing journeys that I'm guiding with a different theme every week. But it's so much more than that now and has taken on this life of its own, this momentum that not only is it that, but I think it's also this. It's me having the platform and the opportunities to just be able to talk about all of this and to be able to share my passion and be able to share my message. And it's so exciting. And just, I think that's, at the end of the day, that's really all I want to do. I mean, I guess all I want to do sounds like it's like cliche, but that's where I see myself for this. I keep coming back to the word journey, but my journey is now one free soul grief journey. So I'm gonna keep going with that, and wherever it takes me, I'm just excited for it. So
You're buckled in, you're ready to go.
yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
And for anybody listening or watching right now that has felt very inspired, but they don't know how to get started on their own journey, what would you say is a very safe, at home, very accessible thing to start doing? I know you mentioned manifestation or gratification or listening to things. Is there like maybe 3-5 steps you could, or tips that you could give?
Yeah. And they are really not hard things. But they will take intentionality and consistency. So I think a big piece of this healing is to practice gratitude. If you can go through your days and start to really tune into things that can bring you a sense of joy, a sense of gratefulness, a sense of peacefulness. And how you would do that is what I term, and I've heard this term before, is looking for glimmers. So a glimmer could be, if I wasn't paying attention and I wasn't tuned in or looking for these things, I might have missed. So I am always looking in my environment for, if I'm outside, maybe a bird or something in nature. If I'm inside, maybe, a painting or something in my surroundings that I can focus on. And then bringing all of that together at the end of the day by writing it down and journaling and writing down what were, like, at a minimum, 3 things that brought me joy today, that made me feel grateful for being alive, that I can go to sleep and think about these things and feel some sense of joy, even if I had a hard day. What do I want to fall asleep thinking about? And the other piece of that is the affirmations. So it's looking for glimmers, writing them down, and then an affirmation could be, I am loved, I am happy, I am peaceful, I am joyful. It's what we're feeding our brains and what we are thinking about, and thinking of what we're feeding our brains almost as something just as important as what we're feeding our bodies. So, we get that. We know, like, what are some healthy things that we can eat, but what are some healthy things you can feed your brain? Just as important.
I love that. And I have one final question that we always ask everyone from Brains. We're working with people like yourself and doctors, coaches, everyone. We would love to know, so you can take a minute to think about this. What mindset do you credit most for the success you have today?
I would say right now, my mindset, and this is a shift for me, is believing in myself and that I can make something happen that I want to have happen. I don't know how I'm going to make it happen, but I know that I have that ability. I know that I have that power. I have that confidence now, which I did not have before. So I think confidence is a big piece of this. So having that belief in yourself, that self-confidence, to know that whatever I set my mind to, whatever I choose to do, I can do it. I don't know, I don't necessarily think that I'm gonna, like, put myself into by this time next year, I want X, Y, and Z, but I have the overall idea of what I want to accomplish with my life, and I believe in myself and that I can do it. So that belief in myself, I think that's a huge, huge one.
I love that, Julie. Thank you so much for this really personal but really beautiful and intentional conversation. Thank you so much for being here.
So much. It's been amazing.